figure set up here. Oh, man. All right. Did we watch the trailer? What do you think about that? Oh, thank you. Thank you. Man, oh, man. A lot of these figures were represented in the trailer we just watched. So, hey, what's up? You saw a lot of those guys in the trailer, actually. So, good times, good times. Glad to see the Sinister Six. That was a big part. Loving to see that. There's just so much to go over. Oh my gosh. There's a lot. There's a lot. And there's a lot we didn't see too. So I don't know. I don't know. We're gonna discuss it all. We're gonna discuss it all. Gee, okay, where do we start? Hunter, how you doing? All right, let's gear up right here. Let's start things off right. And I figure we can have this be a Spider-Man toy live stream too. We'll just kind of hang out and kind of discuss what we saw in the trailer. All sorts of great stuff. Just excited to talk about it. Excited to hear what you guys think. And yeah, let's get right to it. So first things first, we'll start by discussing the man of the hour. Pretty good, man. Pretty good. I'm doing very well, especially good now that I've seen the new trailer. Here we have our new Sandman figure. This is done on the Toy Biz kind of old style card back. And this one just came out. So let's go ahead and open this guy up. Let's look at the back because these are all really fun. Of course, we finally did see, and of course, anybody on the stream, if you haven't had a chance to yet, you might want to go ahead and check out. You might want to check out the trailer before you listen because we're going to be discussing it full tilt. So if you've not seen the trailer, you may want to look at it. Anyway, though, you know, I love these cards. They're huge, and they're just like the ones I had as a kid, but, you know, you got to tear them apart to get the figure out. But that's okay. That's part of it. Sandman, definitely confirmed in the trailer. We finally saw him. We did not see Thomas Hayden Church as Sandman. We saw the big, giant, like, gargantuan Sandman form that he had at the end of Spider-Man 3. So, of course, I do have confidence that we'll actually see Thomas Hayden Church as Sandman. I'm pretty sure he won't just be a gelatinous sand monster. I think we're actually going to get, you know, his human form like this. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. They're also, you know, I don't think Thomas Hayden Church looks all that different than his Spider-Man 3 days. So I don't think they'll have to do as much like CGI and all that as they're having to obviously do with Alfred Molina. Now, I really do like that they still kept the focus on Dr. Octopus, because to me, and of course in all the old video games, and in particular the Return of the Sinister Six comics, that was from, was it Revenge of the Sinister Six? I can't remember. From the early 90s. That big comic event, Dr. Octopus was always, yeah, really well. But Dr. Octopus was always kind of like the lead of the Sinister Six. So I'm glad to see that it looks like the focus really is on Dr. Octopus for the movie, and it isn't just like a misdirect for that first trailer or whatever. So I am glad to see that that was, you know, something that was kind of pointed out, at least that we see. I mean, you know, anything's possible when we actually look at the real movie. But I'm excited. I mean, there's so many elements here, but I think the elephant in the room is what they didn't show. And it's going to be, you know, I think Kevin Feige at this point, the head of Marvel Studios, I think that he is obsessed with the notion of just delayed gratification on these movies. If you look at the trailers for Avengers Endgame, you're going to see that those trailers give away nothing. Even the final trailer that was released, you know, a month before the movie came out or 2 months before the movie came out, there is nothing in the Avengers Endgame trailer that really gives you a true inkling of what the movie is about. There isn't anything too much at all from like the last parts of the movie, the last third of it. So it's untelling what we're going to see. It's untelling what this is really representative of. But here's the thing. They did not, and I mean did not, they didn't show any of the other Spider-Men and we know they're in the movie. It's Hollywood's worst kept secret. All right. Honestly, for some reason, Hunter, to answer that question, I would say that to me, there is something really special, and this is probably one of my favorite little moments about when Dr. Octopus sees Peter's face and is like, "You're not Peter Parker," because I don't know, it's just something I hadn't really thought about. I kind of thought, judging from the last trailer, that Dr. Octopus would have kind of like multiversal knowledge and he was already up on it, but apparently that is not the case. Apparently he's just as confused as Spider-Man is in this situation. So that was a big moment for me. I also really, really liked that final shot, or one of the final shots anyway, at the end where Spider-Man is taking on all of the different villains. And if you kind of, squint, you can see the lizard flying through the air and just everybody all at once and the Sandman in the background. I think that was really, really epic. Uh, oh man, there's so many other great moments from the trailer. I don't know. It's hard to even pin down a third moment, but it's all working very well. It's very exciting. I don't think the movie's going to disappoint or anything. And watch this trailer break the internet to the point where it is the most viewed trailer of all time. I do feel like that's coming here pretty soon. Speaking of multiversal Spider-Man, here is Miguel O'Hara. He is Spider-Man 2099. Now, if you guys haven't read the old 2099 comics, it's just kind of like an alternate reality future where this guy takes up the mantle of Spider-Man after being involved in like some corporate espionage stuff. Here it is. Lab accident causes half his DNA to be rewritten with the spider's genetic code. Miguel O'Hara becomes Spider-Man. As a kid, I remember seeing the Spider-Man 2099 comics and being really enthralled by the suit because it was fairly new when I was a kid. And just the design of the character, I was always really excited about. And that's something that in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, if you guys watch the end credits scene on that, then you know that Spider-Man 2099 is in that movie. He's the alternate Spider-Man you see at the end of it. And of course, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse's sequel is coming down the pipeline. So I think we have a lot to look forward to with that one as well. So just lots of great Spider-Man goodness coming our way. And I don't know if you guys saw it, but Andrew Garfield doubled down just today about not being in No Way Home. And you sort of have to wonder if Marvel was like, hey, we made the decision not to put the alternate Spider-Man in the trailer, so you need to redouble down on you not being in the movie to try to convince people that you're just not. So, yeah, I love Avengers Endgame. That's one of my favorites of all time. And Endgame is so epic. And Tom Holland has said that this Spider-Man No Way Home is supposed to be kind of like an Avengers Endgame event, only for Spider-Man. So to me, that gives me all the hope in the world that it's going to be something really, really special. I was surprised by not only the epic moments in the trailer, but also the humor that they had going. I like the little Scooby-Doo joke that they had. I like the interplay between MJ and Ned and Peter. And probably the best joke, and I think the one that people are going to walk away really talking about, is probably that joke about Otto Octavius's name and how unlikely it is that an actual person would be named Otto Octavius and also have octopus-like appendages and powers. Which they always handled that really well in actual Spider-Man too, because J. Jonah Jameson has that great little scene where he's looking at the newspaper and he's like, a guy named Otto Octavius gets 8 arms. What are the odds? Which, hilariously, they make a Doctor Strange joke in the Raimi Spider-Man films. And, of course, Doctor Strange, as we know, is one of Raimi's favorite superheroes of all time. And, of course, now he's directing the Doctor Strange sequel Into the Multiverse of Madness. So, and, depending on what sources you follow there might be some production trouble. I don't know what you guys think about that, but I don't know, maybe. They claim they're doing a whole lot of reshooting, like way more than even usual for something like that. So I don't know. And now there's more rumors that says that, hey, don't worry, all these reshoots are just so they can get some really big cameos in there that maybe people aren't expecting. I haven't looked into exactly what those are, but I can only imagine. There's one cameo I hope for in particular because of Sam Raimi's passed. I think we're all hoping for that cameo. How likely do you all think it is that maybe, just maybe, that in Doctor Strange Into the Multiverse of Madness, that we see Tobey Maguire Spider-Man? Do you think it's likely? I just don't know how you could have Sam Raimi filming a Marvel movie and have, in a few sound stages down the way, you've got Tobey Maguire in a Spider-Man costume. How does that not happen? I mean, really, like, yeah, I agree. How would that not be a thing? Like, it almost has to be a thing. Like, seriously, if it's not, I mean, they're kind of crazy. Yeah, I agree. I think there's a good chance of it, but at the same time, I'm pretty much 50-50. I don't know if that would be too, uh, if that would be like too on the nose or what, but I don't care if it's on the nose or not. You have the opportunity to do it. The only way I would say that, okay, I can see them not doing it is if Sam Raimi has like already made the deal to do like a Spider-Man 4 type of sequel for Sony. But if they did, wouldn't it be the perfect opportunity to promote something like that, or at least have him run into Doctor Strange and kind of like set it up? That's right. Give the people what they want. And I think Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios, I think they know what people want out of Spider-Man No Way Home, and they're kind of I think they're holding off as long as they can to confirm that is indeed in the movie. But don't worry, little children, the other Spider-Mans are in No Way Home. I mean, come on. There's no way they're not. I think the internet will now rip in half if that's not the case. Ooh, which Spider-Man is my favorite? I guess it's always going to be Tobey Maguire. I don't think there's really any changing it. I think I made up my mind on that after seeing Spider-Man 2. I think the first Spider-Man, I loved it and thought it was great. But it really, Spider-Man 2 is when it clicked for me. When I was a young teenager and saw that movie, and it just really stuck with me. And I would say it's probably the same in some ways, in terms of, what's a favorite movie or favorite moment for Kevin Feige. I mean, of course, he was involved in those movies, even though now he's the head of Marvel Studios. At that time, he was a part of the Marvel production team. So to me, it's very easy for me to look at that and say, you know what, there's a really good chance that he also probably looks at Spider-Man 2 as like the crowning Spider-Man achievement. And I think that has a heck of a lot to do with why you're seeing Dr. Octopus be so prominently featured. So at least that's what I think. I think that's why Doc Ock is just so huge in this movie. And Alfred Molina, I mean, let's face it, he and Willem Dafoe are the very best actors out of the villain cadre that they have available. But, who knows? I don't even know what the chances are that the Vulture will be like prominently featured. So I'm curious if they'll go there with the Vulture. I don't know. And the thing is, I've just not seen a lot of buzz about the Vulture being a prominent part of the movie. So that's one thing that's confusing. Here we have some alternate loadouts for Sandman. He comes with some alternate limbs. This is pretty great. Yeah, I'm liking this. Maybe how I display him right here. But this is, I think, probably what we're talking about, who's going to be in the movie, Venom. I mean, obviously, and spoiler alert if you haven't yet seen Venom, Let There Be Carnage, I'm pretty sure everybody's had the chance at this point. But that ending credit scene, pretty much, I mean, Venom sort of has to appear, I would say. I don't want to say definitely, but I mean, come on. I mean, if you're not going to at that point, then you're never going to. But Venom, this is probably the one I've been looking the most forward to. It was a Hasbro Pulse exclusive. And of course, we finally got a Venom where they've replicated that wild color scheme from the cartoon. I mean, this is, when it comes to paint, there's hardly a better cartoon accurate paint job that I've ever seen on something like this. And of course, we didn't see Venom in the trailer. I don't necessarily think he was in there, but that's for all these people to go through, and they're going to go through and analyze every shadow. There's all kinds of memes about it now, and it's where people are looking at like shadows on the Spider-Man poster, and they're like, hey, that's Mephisto. So, top 10 favorite movies. Well, I would say I'd say The Dark Knight is in there for sure. That's a part of the conversation. I would say Richard Donner cut of Superman 2, especially if, just imagining what those scenes that they couldn't finish would have been like. I still have a lot of love for Richard Donner's version of Superman 2, so that's way up there. Um, Let me see what else. I'm, of course, the basics when we get out, just like regular basics for people's favorite movies. Everybody likes to say Godfather, but I am a huge fan, so it's very easy to put that one out there. This is going to be a funny one, but I've said it for years. Mask of Zorro, probably one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. Transformers, the movie, and I don't mean the 2007 Michael Bay film. I'm talking about the animated movie from, was it 86? Maybe? Yeah, I think it's 86. What else? Man, I could just go on and on with my favorites of all time. I'm big on Forrest Gump, one of my favorite movies ever. Back to the Future, and I count them just as one movie, but I just mean the whole trilogy when I say that. Back to the Future, rare trilogy of films where they're all, like, to me, just completely equal. So I don't have any particular favorite for the Back to the Future trilogy. Probably the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the original. I think The Hobbit is really, really, really good. I really like those movies, probably more than most folks do. But it's the original Lord of the Rings trilogy for me, all the way. And there's so many others. There's so many others. I could talk about it all day, but that's just kind of a snapshot of some of my favorite movies of all time. Here's a funny one, and this, I don't know if it's in my top 10, but it's close. Blade 2, about the Marvel superheroes Vampire Hunter. That's one of my favorites ever. Venom here comes not only his tongue out head, but he just has just an open mouth alternate head here that I'm having a hard time popping on to the neck peg. There we go. Didn't really pop in. It just kind of sits there and just kind of uses friction. But man, that is a beautiful figure. Beautiful. And here's somebody who we didn't see in the trailer. Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man. I don't know. I kind of think some elements of Andrew Garfield Spider-Man are underrated, and some of them, deserve the hate that they get. So, Amazing Spider-Man 2, horrible. I don't find much of any redeeming quality in Amazing Spider-Man 2, aside from some of the last little bits of things in the movie. I think some of that's really good. I think Andrew Garfield is really good. Yeah, Back to the Future, man. I'm telling you, I love Back to the Future. It is a magical, magical movie. Then, I didn't have comedy represented very well in my movie list. For me, this sounds so basic, but I love Christmas Vacation. I'm a big fan of Christmas Vacation. Really hard for me not to just include it. And so that's one of my big favorites when it comes to comedies of all time. And there's so many others, man. Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters is... And I love Ghostbusters 2 as well. I think Ghostbusters 2 gets a lot of flack that it doesn't deserve. Which Ghostbusters Afterlife, I'm very, very excited about. Very excited. So with the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer, I do think that the effects look good. There was a lot of kind of hype, or I don't know if hype is the right word, but there was a lot of, I don't know. I think there's a lot of, I guess there was a lot of speculation is the right word. So, yeah, Rob Pattinson. Yeah, Rob Pattinson Spider-Man, I think will be the best one. Honestly, I think I'm really sort of surprised about them not showing at least sort of a hint of the other Spider-Men. But honestly, the Doctor Strange, his little line at the end about something coming through, I mean, I guess he's talking about villains, but that could be a little nod to more Spider-Men kind of coming through the rift. So I guess we'll see. I don't know. I guess we'll find out soon enough. I would suggest that anybody who wants to get their hands on the Daily Bugle Lego set should probably go ahead and do that, because I do think it's going to be one of those things that the new Spider-Man movie is going to come out, and you're probably going to have, all sorts of craziness with people trying to go back and reacquire a bunch of the Lego stuff. So you know how it is. One of these movies comes out and all of that sort of, it all kind of goes crazy and all the values go out of whack. And it's the same for comics and things of that nature. What do y'all think the deal is with Spider-Man's black suit in the movie? And of course, I don't mean the symbiote suit. I mean, in the new trailer, especially, they highlight a lot of footage of Spider-Man in the black suit with the gold highlights. Like, what is the deal with it? Is it some kind of like interdimensional thing? That's what I think, that it has something to do with like it's some kind of gear that Doctor Strange like equips him with. Because I mean, your guess is as good as mine when it comes to the new suit. I do not know what it does. I know that there's little like gold web holograms that show up. I'm not sure what that means, but I guess we'll find out soon enough. I don't know. So if any guesses, you can put them right out there. I I don't know. Maybe Spider-Man has to use the black suit to he's going to capture the souls of the bad guys. That's right. There's voodoo out there some way or another. I do think it's interesting, and I think the most interesting line in the trailer for me, and you all tell me because I've only got to watch it a couple of times before I started up the stream, is from what I'm understanding is what Doctor Strange said was that all of those villains were destined to die fighting Spider-Man. Is that the thing? Is that what he said? But was he referring to the villains? Because I mean, it would make a certain amount of sense because you've got the Green Goblin there, and of course he dies fighting Spider-Man, and of course Doctor Octopus, same thing. Last time we saw Doctor Octopus in Spider-Man 2, he was at the bottom of the river, and he seemed pretty dead to me. So I don't know. Um, to a certain extent, Venom. If you look at Spider-Man 3, he dies fighting Spider-Man. And then the Sandman, I've always made the joke that in Spider-Man 3, the Sandman just drifts away from being sad. He just falls apart. He goes to his therapist because, Lord knows, poor Sandman needed a therapist in Spider-Man 3. Hey, yeah, thank you, sir. Appreciate you. And maybe he just falls apart. He just disintegrates from sadness because Sandman was having a rough time. I don't know. So maybe they're all supposed to be dead. I'm not sure exactly what's going on. And that's kind of the fun part of it is they still didn't really exactly spell out what was going on. And I don't think Kevin Feige plans on spelling out exactly what's going on. I think everything's going to be kept under lock and key for quite a while. We have 1 month. That's right, 1 month until this movie comes out. And honestly, after this trailer, we might be a little closer with an inkling of what this movie is about than we were before. But honestly, we are not that much closer to having like a real solid idea of what the movie is. And that's weird, but here we are, and it is what it is. I mean, this is the Marvel hype machine at its ultimate, like delayed gratification best. So I do think everybody's going to watch this trailer. I think it's going to be analyzed to Kingdom Come and back. I think it's going to be, I don't know. I guarantee you that by the time I end the stream, that people will already have decoded 8 million different meanings from the trailer. I'm not really into that kind of analytical kind of nature where I pick apart every little thing. But there were some really intriguing bits, I think, in the trailer. And some of it kind of has me questioning some fates of some of like the side characters. And maybe it's just meant to make you think that. I don't know. But I did enjoy the trailer. I think it's a bold move, but it's, it does have I think the potential of maybe frustrating some people about not going ahead and just being like, okay, here's a pretty good indication of the other Spider-Man. Like I said, I think it's bold, and they certainly, I think they've realized that they don't have to show the other Spider-Man to get people to go and watch it. Obviously, they're going to be there. Most disappointing from a visual aspect from this trailer is that they didn't really do anything, it seems so far, to change anything about the Green Goblin visually. And you know what? That's fine. I'm just happy to have Willem Dafoe back as the Green Goblin. But I think that there was maybe a missed opportunity there to bring the costume more in line with the Green Goblin as we know him from the comics. That was always the weakest thing about it, is that they should have never covered up Willem Dafoe's face with that big helmet. And it is a little disheartening to see that they're just going to stick right with it. But I also have to acknowledge, as a fan, that there is a whole generation of kids that were raised up on that original Spider-Man movie and who have really not much of any comic book knowledge. So I for them that is the Green Goblin, even more than comic book Green Goblin. So I have to be cognizant of that, and I have to get it out of my head from when I was a teenager and I was going to the official in 2001, visiting on dial-up connection the official Spider-Man website from Sony, and scoffing at the Green Goblin and just not being happy. Loving the Spider-Man costume, still love the Raimi Spider-Man costume better than any of the movie suits, really. Still love that costume, but remember being so angry about the Green Goblin and thinking they had really messed it up. Years later, I've warmed up a little bit more to the Raimi Green Goblin costume, but it's hard for me. I don't know. It's still, I see a lot of missed opportunities there. And why cover up Willem Dafoe's face when the man just basically is the Green Goblin? Um, man, that would be rough. I'm sorry, Willem, if you're watching the stream and you heard me just say that, I apologize. For someone to literally say that you are a goblin, it's like Seinfeld. Isn't that what he says? This man's a goblin about Kramer. Yeah, I don't think Michael Richards, I don't think he's going to be playing the Green Goblin anytime soon. But, Michael Richards, too evil to play the Green Goblin. That's right. Far too evil. That's okay. He's laughing all the way to the bank with his Seinfeld residual checks from Netflix. Oh, yeah. And Kevin Feige, he made the statement just a little while back, maybe just a week or so ago, that you've got a situation where he couldn't have imagined how could you recast some of those. Like Willem Dafoe, are you really going to go out and find the guy who's the better Green Goblin? It would just be stupid. That would be a horrible, horrible idea. Same thing for Alfred Molina as Dr. Octopus. It would be one thing if these guys were like retired or they were like 90 years old or they had passed on or something like that, but they've not. So why not just utilize what you've got? And going back and utilizing that back catalog is very, very, very smart. So I'm in full support of reusing the villains. I think that's a good idea. And that Tobey Maguire guy, he did a pretty good job. That one guy that played Spider-Man that one time. You may remember him. People seem to remember him fondly as Spider-Man. So get him in there too. I have said this though from the beginning. I remember mentioning this to Brandon a couple of times, and this is something that I think is really, 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 really funny to say. What if, and bear with me for a second, what if the other Spider-Men just aren't in the movie and people absolutely lose it? They're threatening to burn down Marvel Studios, and then what happens? Does it all just fall apart? Oh yeah, I remember that. Those were some good bloopers in Spider-Man 2. I just remember in all the behind the scenes stuff in Spider-Man 2 that Alfred Molina kept saying that he didn't want to do any of the stunts and that there were stuntmen that they paid for that kind of thing. And it shown him reacting to some of the small explosions that they had rigged around him, and he was like horrified. And they were trying to get takes where he wasn't flinching. But you know what? I don't blame him. I don't blame him. Look, all you got to do is look in the news to see some of the things that go on some of these movie sets referring to recent events. And, maybe you should be scared of getting hurt on some of this stuff. But yeah, it would be hilarious in a way. I'll be honest, in a way, I would almost think it was the funniest thing that ever happened if neither Spider-Man shows up in the actual movie. I mean, yeah, sure, I would be disappointed, but I would also be laughing hysterically as I read post after post of everybody just losing their minds with anger, with frustration. I don't know, it would be kind of funny, in my opinion, but maybe that's just kind of a sick kind of, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being negative. But it would be kind of funny. Would be kind of funny. It would be really funny if the movie, I'm just trying to think of worst case scenario here. It would be really funny if the other Spider-Man emerged from the portals. Only it's Nicholas Hammond, who played Spider-Man in the 70s show. And it's Dan Gilvezan, the voice actor who played him in Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. It's just them. Or how about that dude who played Greg Brady? And I wish I could remember his name right off the top of my head. Oh, what is his name? He played Greg Brady in the Brady Bunch like movies from the '90s, the two, and he played Spider-Man's voice in the animated series. What if it's just him? He steps out of a portal. He would sound like Spider-Man. Isn't that what matters, kids? You know what? Dress a guy up in a animated series perfect Spider-Man costume and have him like just provide the voiceover and sign me up. I would actually be really thrilled with that if a portal opened up and what do you know? There's Spider-Man from the animated series. He's just a guy in like a perfect like spandex recreation of the Spider-Man animated series costume. I mean, come on. How could you say no to that? I'm all about that crossing over live action and cartoon kind of stuff. I mean, I'm here for it. So I would love to see that. That would be fantastic. Um, have any of you all watched the '80s Spider-Man series? And it's the cartoon that they did that was just Spider-Man. Like, there's no Amazing Friends in it or anything. It was on concurrently, but it was a different guy playing like the voice of Spider-Man, and it even had some of the same plots as Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. It just was its own show. Um, I actually have a soft spot for that series, probably because of some of the VHSs that I had as a kid. Uh, I really do like some episodes of that. In particular, there's this one, Revenge of the Green Goblin, and it's really good. It's really nice. There's a Halloween party in it where a bunch of the characters are dressed up as more obscure Marvel characters in the background, and some not so obscure ones. Like I think, I think there's a Captain America or something back there. But if you haven't got a chance to check it out, it's on Disney Plus, and you definitely should. And that's one thing that I hope people will do as a result of all this Spider-Man hype is this is a good time for them to go back and get familiar with some of the Spider-Man stuff that they may have missed. Go back and watch a little bit of the MTV new Spider-Man animated series, the CGI show. Some of those episodes are really good. Some of them are not so good. Some of it is a little, not what I would do kind of stuff, but some of it is really nice. In particular, the Kingpin episode with Michael Clark Duncan as the Kingpin, who of course played him in the Daredevil movie. That was a really, really, really good episode. I remember it really well, being super excited about it. I missed out on a lot of other episodes of the series, but I really liked that one. Another piece of Spider-Man media I suggest people check out, and I know it's not going to be for everybody, but if you're looking at it through a nostalgic lens like me, then it is my kind of thing for sure. And that is the Nicholas Hammond 1970s Spider-Man series. I think it's worth watching, and there's good things about it. Yep, Christopher Daniel Barnes, that was him. Played Greg Brady in the Brady Bunch movies. And still, when I read the comics today, I am in my head, I hear this guy, Christopher Daniel Barnes, as Spider Man from Spider Man the Animated Series. That's still what I hear in my head when I pick up a comic. It's not, just some random voice or it's not one of the movie actors. It is still him as Spider Man. So that's an accomplishment when you can, like, pretty much overwrite any other voice in your head, I guess, when you read a comic. Um, I think sometimes when I read Batman comics, who I hear depends on like the era of the comics I'm reading. If I go back and I'm reading, say, like I don't know, mid '80s Batman or early '80s Batman, I'm probably hearing Adam West's voice from Galactic Guardians, where he kind of gave a more gruff Batman voice. Because as a kid, I heard that, and now I can't separate that like classic style guide Batman, like the kind of slender, more sort of Neil Adams looking Batman. Um, Oh, so that was him too, huh? Okay, that's cool. And so I kind of hear that, and then if it's Dark Knight Returns Batman, I hear Michael Ironside because of the Batman animated series episode Legends of the Dark Knight. For Spider-Man, it also sort of depends on the era, but I still hear Christopher Daniel Barnes like way more. It's kind of a shame that he's more known for that one meme kind of clip that's on YouTube where he's in the symbiote costume, and I don't know if you guys have seen this, but it's like the name of the clip is something like acting or overacting in a cartoon. It's where he's shouting at the Shocker that he'll follow him to the ends of the earth, and he's like, "I'll follow you to the ends I mean, it was supposed to be over the top. It was a cartoony kind of, expression of the symbiote angst, I guess, which I was sure and to get that recorded on VHS when I was a kid. So I was all the time going back and rewatching that symbiote storyline because it was such a big deal to me as a kid to have Venom show up in the show, and that was a big moment because keep in mind Venom really, when you think about it, and this is really funny to imagine this, Venom was only as a character like 5 or 6 years old, had been in comics continuity, and maybe 7 years old at most. I can't remember, but it's funny to think how instantly they got Venom in on all the merchandise and all the adaptations of Spider-Man, like right away. Even my pet favorite arcade game, the old Spider-Man arcade, like Venom is a huge part of that game. And at that point, Venom had he was practically a brand new creation in the comics. I mean, really, he was, and only just had just barely been in anything, and they instantly got him in there. So I think that's pretty amazing. Uh, one really big visual surprise for me in this new trailer, and this really surprised me, was how cool their visual was for Electro. Like, did you guys see how he has pretty much the little electric mask going around the face every time he uses his powers? I mean, that's fantastic. I thought, it really does look good. I really thought that they would probably just stop short and have Jamie Foxx just, in his yellow coat or whatever, and then he just charges up. And no, they went to the next level with Electro, and they actually have the little frame come around his face, like the electrical frame. And I mean, to me, visually, that is right. They finally figured out the right way to do it. And for years, I really didn't think there was a way. And I used to always excuse them for not being able to because I thought, well, there's no real way to do that and it won't look good. And no, this is a fantastic way to do it. I just wish that Feige and company had looked at the Green Goblin the same way. But I know why they didn't change it. It's like I said, people, they love, I guess, for better or worse, I guess they're pretty crazy over Green Goblin's old movie look. And I suppose they didn't want to mess with that because people, I guess, would still be into that maybe or have a nostalgic attachment to that. I don't know. If they did, God bless them. But it's certainly something I would have changed, I guess. Um, I wonder how much this movie will just lead directly into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And I'm sort of wondering from watching this trailer, is it surely it won't be the type of situation where pretty much you have to watch into the Multiverse of Madness for it to just kind of continue onwards from there or just kind of be the next part of the story. I I think they'll be smart about that because Marvel is always kind of careful not to just do. I think they're careful to make sure that the stories are self-contained enough to where you have felt like you have watched an entire concluded story. But I do feel like there's going to be some elements of it that are just going to bleed directly over because the more and more material they release, the more and more this is, I don't know, sometimes it feels just as much like a Doctor Strange movie as it does a Spider-Man movie. I mean, what do you all think? It kind of seems to me like it's more Doctor Strange focused and more Doctor Strange centric every time I see material about it. There's more and more and more and more of them, which isn't a bad thing, particularly because Cumberbatch is so good as Doctor Strange. I mean, how could it be a bad thing? But it is interesting. It's an interesting way to go. And I think that Marvel is going to continue to do more of these team up movies. And really, Spider Man No Way Home, at least from what it seems like right now, there's a big element, I think, of it feeling kind of like a team up movie. That it sort of feels that way, that it's a co starring Doctor Strange kind of thing. I just don't want it to take all the focus away from Spider Man. I think that that's fair to be like, you know what, I just hope it stops short of kind of going a little too far in that direction because as much as I like that and as much as I'm excited by that, I don't know. I can't I can't bear to see the focus completely taken too much off of Spider-Man. I love Doctor Strange, but I do think it's kind of its own thing, and I don't want it to just become this completely mystical kind of movie. But that's okay. It seems like every one of these, they do something a little different, with Spider-Man being the apprentice to somebody. And I think some people are a little irritated with that trope a little bit. But I do think it's probably part of an initiative that Kevin Feige had as soon as they got the rights back to the character. What's the value of having Spider-Man in the Marvel Universe if he's not going to have some pretty significant team ups in the movies? Why not leverage those characters? And honestly, I would say because Sony, sees a lot of the money from the movie, I'm sure that they're all for it as well. They want as much connective tissue as they can so that people will pretty much forget that Sony is kind of the name in front of the movie. And people will just be like, okay, this is one of those Marvel movies I have to see because it's so important to the overall continuity. And keep in mind that this movie almost didn't happen because of the deal almost fell through. And apparently, Tom Holland was the one who allegedly drunkenly called some of the studio bosses and told them that they needed to make a deal. So it's kind of hard to believe that none of this almost just happened at all. But I don't know. This is going to be wild, and I cannot wait to see what their ideas are when we finally see the real thing. Am I wrong in saying that in the trailer that it looks like is it the Statue of Liberty is like falling apart or something? Are they on the Statue of Liberty? It was it was kind of dark. I couldn't really make it out. Is that what I'm seeing? Are we seeing the finale of the original X-Men just replayed with Spider-Man? It's what it kind of looked like to me. Looked like the Statue of Liberty is falling apart or something. So I guess that's as New York as it gets. Why does this like never happen in like an abandoned field or in the middle of a cave or something? Like these big universal cosmic events. Like it just so happens they go to the Statue of Liberty. I don't know. I'm sure there's some kind of story reason, but we'll see. We'll see. All right. Well, that's pretty much all for my reaction to the brand new Spider-Man No Way Home trailer. I hope you guys enjoyed watching the trailer. Hope you had fun with it. I just wonder if there's going to be some backlash over absolutely refusing to show anything about the other Spider-Man in the trailer, or are people just going to be cool about it, or are people going to is there going to be some resentment? The truth is, it doesn't matter how people will feel about the trailer because they'll all be there with bells on the very day, the second the movie comes out. So I'm excited. We're a month out. We won't have to wait much longer for these answers. So as always, friends, make sure that you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on all of our videos. Of course, I'll be doing an in-depth review of the movie when we get a little bit closer, and we'll be discussing all sorts of Spider-Man No Way Home related news and looking at, of course, action figures all the time. Don't forget to join me as I'm continuing to build the Lego Home Alone set, and that'll be continuing, of course, this week. We'll be wrapping it up, so be on the lookout for that. And of course, God bless you and yours. Have a great night, and I'll see you on Fanboys Forever. Take care.